Okay, so at the end of part one of redoing the fence, I extended the poles, demoed the old fence, and also laid down the stringers. So now I'm gonna get started with actually laying down the pickets for the board-on-board fence. Let's go. Actually, the first thing I started with was laying down a top cap. This isn't absolutely required, I just think it looks nice. I'm using a pre-stained Cedar 2x6 for my top cap, and I used my multi-stand and super jaws to hold it in place while I used the circular saw to cut a 45 on the end. The 45 degree here is not necessary, it's just, again, something I thought would look nice. Now this was one advantage of going with a local supplier for material versus the big box store, is I was able to get these 2x6s in 16-foot joints. Now the top cap does not sit center on the 2x4, but instead I left a 2.5-inch overhang on the front because later I'm going to be placing 2 pickets and trim on the front edge, and I still wanted a slight overhang. Once the board was set in place, I came back with nails and secured it to that 2x4. Actually, I started off using nails, but then later I ended up switching to screws to secure the top cap. And to make this step easier, I ended up cutting a block that was 2.5 inches to use as a spacer, so I could just set it in place and move the material where it needed to go. And whenever I got in between poles, I would actually have Cody move the 2x4, which was far easier than trying to constantly move around the top 2x6. And the reason I am putting on the top cap first thing so that I could very quickly lay all the pickets by just butting up the top of the picket to the underside of that top cap. And that's exactly what I did next. I started laying down my pickets. Now I am going with a board-on-board fence, so the first thing I did was make a spacer that was 3 inches wide. My pickets are 5.5 inches wide, so this roughly leaves just over an inch on either side, so that as the boards shrink, it won't create a gap to where you can see in the yard. That's exactly why we're going with board-on-board, is to create that additional level of privacy. I would first lay down the back row of pickets by butting my spacer against the previous picket, then placing my new picket that I'll be laying down against the spacer, then using 2 nails per stringer to attach it. And then just about every 5th or 6th picket, I would hold up level and just make sure that I wasn't getting out of plumb. And if I was, then I would scotch over this picket slightly until I was back in plumb, then secure it with 2 nails. Now, it is the heat of summer in Texas, so I definitely utilize this canopy. We would make it straddle the fence and move it over to the area where I was working. Believe me, it was still hot, but at least that sun wasn't beating down on me the whole time. So after getting quite a few of the back pickets laid, I would double back and start laying down the front pickets, repeating the exact same process. Using the spacer to butt up against the previous picket and then laying down my new picket up against the spacer. Now, just something that I did is I wanted my spacer to be the full length from the top to the bottom of the fence. So I grabbed a picket and ripped it down at my table saw. And then to make handling it easier, well, I attached a handle to it. It would take me pretty much a full day to picket one side. So just in picketing alone, it was 3 days worth of work. Now I'm using stainless steel ring shank nails, and the stainless steel nails are a lot more expensive than the regular nails. However, the coating will prevent them from leaving those black streaks down the pickets over time, and the ring shank will keep them from backing out. So since we're already spending a lot of money on the fence, we went ahead and spent the extra buck to get the stainless steel ones. And of course, after I got done with one side, I would just wrap around and continue on with the next. So if you're mindful about where you place your nails, if you go within an inch of the outside of the picket, whenever you come back with your overlay board, you'll actually cover them up. It was really cool because Cody and a neighbor friend ended up working ahead of me to lay down the top cap, so as soon as I was done with the second side, I could just continue on with the third. Then finally, after 3 long days of picketing, I got to the very end. And I guess it doesn't pay to be a neighbor friend of ours, because he ended up stopping by and we put a tool in your hand. You gotta love good neighbors. Okay, now on to a very quick and simple step, adding the trim. Once all the pickets were up, I grabbed some 1x3 boards, went to the outside of the fence, and placed them along the top. This hides all of the dog ears and just gives it a real uniform look, in my opinion. This is by far the quickest step involved in the entire project. Okay, and that's actually where I'm gonna have to stop this time. I had hoped to get the boxes done for this video, but I'm just gonna have to push it until the next video. So next time I will be doing the boxes around the post, the trim work for the boxes, as well as building a gate. Now, if you have any questions about the material that I'm using, where I purchased it, or any of the tools that I'm using, be sure to check the description of the video first, because I have left you links. And I have also written a pretty thorough written tutorial, so if you have more questions that I didn't answer in the video, then also check that link in the description below. That's it for this one, so I will see you next time.
Moving right along, aren't you?
Yeah, that's sun's motivation. I want to put up the next picket in a hurry in order to block out the sun a little bit more. It's like, go, go, go!
Yeah.